late, baby. Let's get it. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Welcome in. How's everybody? Good, great, wonderful. I hope. Happy Thursday, my friends. I hope you are just having the best day. Tim's over here breaking stuff already. We ain't even started the damn show. Tim's breaking stuff already.
Dude, these things just slip off sometimes.
They've been on here a year and a half. I ain't done that yet. What are you doing?
I don't know. I keep grabbing the bottom of it anyway.
Now we wonder why your hand's all jacked up. Jeez, man.
I know, man. I've just been clumsy.
That is the Timinator. I am Rob Brown. We are happy to be with you guys on a, say it with me, friends, Football Thursday. Yes, indeed. It is here. There are games tonight that count on a weeknight. Huzzah! As they would have said in like the 1700s. What a day.
In Russia.
Do they say huzzah there?
Yeah.
Oh, learn something new every day. What a day we have lined up today, y'all. What a day on the show. The first hour is slam-packed, my dudes and dudettes. Why? Well, I'm glad you asked. Hypothetical listener I made up for this exact situation. It's because coming up in the very next segment of the show, we're going to be joined by the legendary voice of the Furman Paladins, Mr. Dan Scott, will join us here on the radio broadcast, and we will break down, wait for it, tonight's Furman Paladin football game. They welcome Tennessee Tech to Paladin Stadium for a little football contest. On the record, that counts. We're really looking forward to that one. And at the conclusion of that interview, my dudes and dudettes, one of y'all is going to win a pair of tickets to go to that contest. One of you is going to win a pair of tickets to go watch a little Furman Paladin football coming up tonight at Paladin Stadium. So make sure you stay tuned for that, because we're going to give those tickets away very, very soon. And, BT Dubs, since you're keeping track, whoever wins those tickets today is indeed going to be entered into a drawing today. As a matter of fact, before the conclusion of the show, I believe, one of you is going to be entered into a drawing with the opportunity to upgrade those 2 tickets and turn them into, my friends, 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 club level seats for the contest tonight. And those club level seats will come with a parking pass, so you will be parking VIP right up front. You will go into the nice seats, the swanky suites. Some might even call them bougie. But you got your chance to win those. But in order to win that grand prize, first and foremost, you have got to win the pair of tickets coming up at the end of the interview with Dan Scott in the next segment. Then, shortly after that, Rashad Beard in the final segment of this hour. Rashad will join us, and we will be talking Carolina Panther football, because next weekend we get Panther football underway. Game 1 on the road at the ATL. We're going to talk with Rashad about his offseason wrap-up, some of the guys that have jumped out at him, who he likes and why, the roster cuts down to 53, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's all coming up in this hour of the show. Next hour of the show, we're going to get some baseball in here. Why are we talking baseball, ladies and gentlemen? It is because of the fact that yesterday evening, the Atlanta Braves did something remarkable, and they did it before the conclusion of August. We got a whole nother month of baseball in the regular season, and yet the Braves have done something that is, frankly, shocking. I'm going to tell you what that is coming up later on in the radio broadcast, so make sure you stick around for that. And then the back half of the show, it's all college football, because we got games tonight, we got games tomorrow, we got games all day Saturday. What a day we have lined up for you guys. So if you would like to get on the radio broadcast, if you would like to be a part of the broadcast, here is how you do it. 844-326-3663. 844-326-3663 is the number to dial to get on the air. The carpros.com text line is available for you. That number is 71307. 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. You can tweet me or X me or threads me or whatever else you want to do on the computer devices at The Rob Brown Show. I'm there on Instagram. I'm there on Twitter. I'm there on Facebook, facebook.com/The Rob Brown Show. That's all the ways to get direct with me on the social media. And, of course, you can also get at everybody on The Fan Upstate at The Fan Upstate. So there's all the different ways to get in touch with the show. Oh, you can also email me. Why not give up my email publicly? rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. That can't go sideways, can it? rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. If you want to shoot me something that's a little more long format, but you don't want to come on the air with it, because inevitably every time I go out, somebody comes up to me and goes, you were talking about this the other day. I don't want to say it on the air, but email me, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. Keegan says, welcome back, Bubble Guts. Glad the stream is up and running. The stream is up and running at The Fan Upstate on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube, or by getting at me on Twitch at The Rob Brown Show. So you can come watch the stream. I am glad to be back in the studio because I hated yesterday. That's not true. I hated the beginning of yesterday. I hated till about 2:30 in the afternoon because your boy was very heavily committed to one particular room in the casa. You feel me? I was kind of obligated to be in one particular room, seated on one particular seat for a much longer period of time than I wished to be yesterday. It ruined my day, but I will tell you this, and this was very nice. Yesterday, late afternoon, I kind of find I never really felt bad, Tim. It was just more along the lines of like, oh, this is happening.
Yeah, it's like a, explosive.
Yeah.
A ticking time bomb.
It's not that I felt bad. It was just that I really wanted to not stay in my bathroom all day. And unfortunately, it wasn't up to me. So anyway, I got done with that part of my day, fortunately for me. And when that part of my day came to its conclusion, I was sitting on the couch getting a little work done. We've got Burns Greenville coming up tomorrow. Pregame at 7, kickoff at 7:30. Available right here and only on the Fan Upstate. And I like to put in my prep work. When I show up for those games, I like to show up prepared. I like to show up knowledgeable. I like to show up knowing what I'm going to be talking about. And so I was sitting there doing a little research. I was getting prepared. I was looking up stats and names and numbers. And then a gentle knock came on my living room door, and I was like, oh, who is that? So I stood up. I took the risk. I waddled across the living room. I opened the door, and there in front of me was a gentleman in a Costco polo shirt. And I said, hello? And he said, yes, I'm here with your delivery. And I completely forgot. It slipped my mind until my guys showed up that last week from the Costco website, because welcome to 2023. I completely forgot that last week from the Costco website, your boy purchased a brand new 75-inch high definition 4K 1080p 75-inch television.
So jealous.
And yesterday, that 4K Ultra HD 75-inch television was delivered and installed in Rob Brown's man cave. Now,
Did you install it or did they?
No, they brought it and they set it up. I had to go through the process of like hooking it up, but like whatever,
Yeah.
I never wanted anything more in my life. All right. I didn't. The fiance got home and she's like, I am pretty sure you're more excited about this TV than you were about proposing to me. And I was like, well, the TV can't say no. You know what I mean? So with you, there was some nerves.
That's true.
I got it installed. I got it set up. Now I'm going to mount it on the wall. I'm going to get one of the, the wall mounts that kind of pulls out off the wall. I got to get one of those, but I got it set up. I got it installed. I got it on the legs. Then I got the Xbox hooked up. I got the extra HDMI that goes to my computer so I can use it as a computer monitor to game on. I got everything set up, and then I sat on the couch and I turned it on, and I turned on the Xbox, and I fired up last night a little Call of Duty. And do you know what happened when I started playing Call of Duty?
What happened?
I still suck, but I suck so much bigger now.
I got to jump on with you one night.
I am still terrible at it, but
I'll
I am
carry
terrible at it in so much more inches of television. It was an incredible experience. So the 75-inch showed up last night. It is hooked up, it is set up, and it is ready to go, ladies and gentlemen, because we got football tonight. Justin, and I forgot that I ordered it. I ordered it to be delivered yesterday so that it would be installed, set up, and ready to go for tonight, because we've got Florida, Utah, and a bunch of other games going this evening. Nebraska plays tonight, first game of the Matt Rule era. I had it delivered intentionally today so that it would be ready for tonight's football, so that it would be more not only ready, but it would be dialed in, and all the settings would be where I needed them to be for Saturday. Because it's not just a matter of plug it in, turn it on, watch football. You got to dial in the settings, right? You got to adjust the brightness based on the room. All right. You got to adjust the brightness set on the room. You've got to adjust the contrast. You got to make sure that your darkest blacks are saturated. You got to make sure that you do whatever you got to do to tune the edge burn out, right? There's a lot that has to be done to get this thing dialed in. It's not as simple as just plug it in and turn it on and start enjoying your football. I got to get it dialed in. So I spent last night getting it dialed in. I spent last night making sure that it was exactly where I needed it to be. It is. And tonight I get to try out the sports setting because it's got its own setting. You go to the settings page and you go down to picture, and it's like, what style of picture would you like? And there's vivid, and there's eco, and there's energy saver, and there's dark night and bright day and yada. And there's all these different ways that you can, all these different screen settings. And tonight, for the very first time, Rob Brown gets to make a run at the sports setting on the TV. And if you don't think that I'm beyond excited, you don't know me at all, dude. You don't know me at all. So the TV is set. We are ready to rock and roll. It is football season. Florida, Utah, Nebraska plays tonight. It is going to be a good one. And I feel like, ladies and gentlemen, we should probably, break down tonight's games, shall we? I feel like we should probably jump into tonight's games. So, coming up later in the show, we're going to do exactly that. But before we do, we are going to go ahead and run out to a break. And why are we going to go ahead and run out to a break? We are going to go ahead and run out to a break because coming up next on the show, the voice of the Furman Paladins, Mr. Dan Scott, joins us here on the radio broadcast. Why? Because the Dins play football tonight, my friends. Dan Scott, voice of the Furman Paladins, joins us this next very segment. My name is Rob Brown, T2, the Timinator, the Snowman, working the ones and twos for you. We're back after this with Dan Scott on the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. All right. Make sure the commercials are out of utility, please, Tim. Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Yes, Keegan. I also realized exactly what I said exactly when I said it. All right, dudes and dudettes, we got to step away while we get Dan Scott dialed up. We will be right back after this. We'll talk some questions. We'll talk with Dan. We'll talk some Carolina Panther football with Rashad. It's going to be a day. Don't go anywhere. Back in just a minute.
The Rob Brown Show, you ready for your interview?
The Rob Brown Show is back on your radio, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fan Upstate. How do you do? Upstate South Carolina. Hello, America. What's up, world?
Yeah,
Great to be with you. We'll have Dan Scott on with us here in just seconds from right now as the Furman Paladins get set to take on Tennessee Tech, a Tennessee Tech team that went 4-7 last year. It is Furman's only true FCS non-conference opponent this fall. And that match takes place this evening at Paladin Stadium, and seated high above Paladin Stadium, overseeing, dare I say, directing, organizing, coordinating, and successfully executing every single aspect of tonight is, of course, the legendary voice of the Furman Paladins. He is my amigo on and off the air. He doesn't like me to tell people that in public, but I'll do it anyway. The great Dan Scott joins us here on the Rob Brown Show. How do you do, young man?
Well, first of all, if I'm going to do everything that you just said I'm doing, I need a raise.
You and me both, buddy. It's funny how many times we both tell everybody we do everything and nobody believes us.
Well, you know, Rob, you've been doing this a long time, and so have I. We have a saying in the radio business: where else can you have this much fun for no money?
Yeah, it's painful how accurate that is. But you know what, Dan? At the end of the day, we get to sit down and watch sports and get paid kind of for it. So it works out just fine, I guess.
When I have those moments of frustration, that's what I always go back to. I remind myself that I'm getting paid to watch a ball game, and at the end of the day, that ain't bad.
That ain't bad at all. Dan Scott, voice of the Furman Paladins, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. And look, let's get into it. And I'll start with kind of the 30,000-foot view, Dan Scott. Man, folks are excited about Clay Hendricks' team this year. There's a lot of energy. A lot of juice, a team that made a playoff run last year, a team that went into Death Valley and put more yards up, not points, unfortunately, but more yards than the Clemson Tigers did last year. And from the folks I've talked to, this team could and should be better this year.
On paper, Rob, and you know how that always works out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm entering my 13th season, and on paper, this should be the best team that I've covered. That I've broadcast for, because it's got more depth and experience, and with that talent at every position. There have been some years where there have been, individual talent and some positions that have had great depth, but you're talking about 20 starters and 38 of the top 44 returning from the two deep last year. And I don't know that there are very many teams at any classification in the country who can say that. So, yeah, there are a lot of expectations. And when people tune in to the Pepsi Countdown to Kickoff on the Fan Upstate this evening, they'll hear our conversation with Clay Hendricks. And I asked him about those expectations. And his comment, among others, is that his job is to make sure that the players' work this preseason meets those expectations, and he believes it has. So I'm excited to get going. I think it's going to be a really, really good season, and we get to see it start to unfold tonight.
Dan Scott, voice of the Furman Paladins, joins us here on the show. And Dan, in your ever so humble yet frequently correct opinion, we talk about a lot of teams, and we talk about returners, and we talk about depth, and we talk about all this. But how important is it, and how big is it for a school like Furman, which, you can have a lot of guys transfer out. There were really only a couple this year. In fact, I think everybody that transferred out found a replacement for transfers coming in. How big is it for Clay Hendricks to not just have a bunch of starters back, but to have so many guys from a two-deep roster last year back on this roster this year?
Well, Furman has to be a developmental program. It's not a program that can live in the transfer portal for various and sundry reasons, beginning with the academic standards of the university. There are a lot of schools that talk about academic standards. Furman is one that adheres to them, and they don't make academic exceptions for their student athletes. So you can't live in the transfer portal there. There is a hybrid grad program now that's been in place for a couple of years that has helped And so it's helped Furman bring in maybe the right grad transfer for a position. But what it's done more than anything, Rob, is allow Furman to keep its own players that they've developed over 3 or 4 seasons who otherwise might have to transfer to play a final year of eligibility someplace else. Now, most of them can stay here and finish out their careers. And I think you're seeing that come to fruition here this season. That's why you have, when you look up and down the roster, so many redshirt seniors and graduates, and 95% of those, maybe 99% of those are players who have been invested in this program for 4 or 5 seasons.
Dan Scott, voice of the Furman Paladins, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Furman sends 7 players to the all-conference list last year that return this year. It's not just, Dan Scott, that they're bringing guys back. It's that they're bringing performers back. You look at the FCS positional rankings put out before the season started. You've got a quarterback who's number 21, a running back who's number 16, an offensive lineman in Pearson Toomey who's number 17, an offensive lineman in Jacob Johanning who's number 9. This team, for, if you want to use the word developmental, I mean, it's correct. I agree with you. But to be a developmental program that has stuck 7 players into the top 100 players in FCS football says that it's not just developmental, but it's a successful developmental program.
And that's the key. And that's the groundwork that Clay Hendricks laid when he came back 7 seasons ago, knowing that that's how this program is going to have to be successful. And you've got to get players who are willing to buy into that, players who know that almost without exception, there are the handful of exceptions every year, but almost without exception, you're going to redshirt your freshman year. And you're going to then progress up the depth chart. And by the time you get to be a redshirt sophomore and junior and senior, that's when you're really going to be able to contribute to the program. Not every player wants to buy into that. And we see that at programs all over the country. Somebody loses a position battle in the spring or in fall camp, and they get their little feelings hurt, and they take off to go to some other school. They hit the transfer portal. For Furman to be successful, they've got to develop players, and they have to do that at a high level. And I think you've seen with the results last year, with what's coming back this year on paper, that's why this team is ranked 6th in the country preseason.
Dan Scott joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Talk to me a little bit about this Furman offense. Tyler Huff at QB, a 2023 grad student who transferred to Furman last season after a very solid start to his career at Presbyterian. 68% completions last year, 2,199 yards and 15 touchdowns, but he also went for almost 700 on the ground as well. Are we going to see kind of a dual threat offense behind Taylor Huff this year?
Well, what's interesting about Tyler is people forget that he, A, was coming off of an ACL injury when he came into the Furman program, and B, he came in the fall. He did not have a spring or a summer with Furman. So everything he did, he picked up basically on the fly last year and had a phenomenal season. And you saw in a nutshell why the quarterback position is so important at collegiate football, just like it is in the NFL. He went to offensive coordinator Justin Roper after the season and said, I want to improve as a pocket passer. So what does Justin Roper do? This fall during camp, he takes away his ability to scramble. When plays break down, he will not allow him to scramble and run. He makes him sit in the pocket and go through his progressions. Now, in game situations, obviously, starting tonight, the run is on the table. Yes, he will be a dual threat quarterback, but Tyler recognized he needed to be a better pocket passer. Justin's response to that was, okay, in practice for the next month, you can't run. Go through the progressions. And I think that's a brilliant move. I really do. And so we'll see how it all plays out. But that's the kind of kid that Tyler is. He went to his offensive coordinator after last season and said, I want to be a better pocket passer. How can we accomplish that? And Justin said, okay, practice, you're not going to run.
I got to tell you, it's a pretty solid coaching strategy. You want to get better at passing? Don't run. That works out just fine. Dan Scott, voice of the Furman Paladins, here on the Rob Brown Show with the Fan Upstate. Let's flip real quick, Dan, and to the other side of the ball, and then we'll take just a minute to break this game down tonight. Defensively, the number 10 FCS scoring defense last year allowed just a tick over 20 points per game, and they bring back 10 starters from that unit last year. I'd ask about the defense, Dan Scott, but we've kind of already seen it.
It's really incredible. The question is going to be really, how do you live up to what you did a year ago? Because not only were they top 10 in scoring, they led the nation in turnovers forced. And from a special team standpoint, which I kind of lean towards the defensive side of the ball, they blocked 10 kicks. So how do you improve on that? Well, Dwayne Vaughn says you just work harder, the defensive coordinator, and that's what they do. The thing that I take away from talking to coaches and talking to players over the last 3 or 4 weeks as camp has started, and you know, you can say all the right things and we'll know once the games start, but they've all said all the right things. Nobody is resting on what they did last year. And Clay Hendricks said something that I thought was pretty stark, again, in our pregame interview that people will hear later on this evening on the Fan Upstate. He said that they weren't good enough to get it done last year. And he told his team, because I asked him about balancing last year's success with the expectations. And he reminded them that they didn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish, and that's win a national championship. They came up about 3 games short. So if that's the mindset going in, I expect a team that's going to be highly motivated when they take the field this evening. Time will tell, and we'll find out very early on, but they're all saying the right things.
The only true FCS non-conference game on the schedule for the Dins this year is tonight, Dan Scott. So you've got that plus the additional pressure of it being week 1, plus the additional pressure of it being a home opener. Just your initial thoughts on this game tonight.
I'm looking for Furman just to come out and do what it does. And by that, I mean, they're going to want to establish the run. They're going to want to get Dominic Roberto, moving and then be multiple. I tell you, watch this wide receiver group though this year, Rob. This wide receiver group is talented, it's deep, and it's got a chance to be special. They'll come out, they'll try to set the tone, be ultra aggressive defensively. Tennessee Tech's offense, you can expect maybe 3 to 5 gadget type plays. They like to do things like that. We don't know what we're going to see from the quarterback position. They've got one young man, a redshirt sophomore, who has been in the program for 3 years, but he's a former walk-on. They have the guy listed as number 2 in the depth chart, who's a JUCO transfer, who started his career at Iowa State, who just came in the fall, who's not as familiar with the system. How much are either going to play? We don't know. They have a running back who a couple of years ago was a 1,000-yard rusher at Montana. Defensively, their defensive coordinator was at Chattanooga with Russ Huesman a handful of years ago and went with him to Richmond. So there's some familiarity with what they're going to do scheme-wise. So I don't think anything's going to surprise Furman. I think it's just going to be a matter of going out, and I sound like a coach here, but it's just going to be a matter of going out and executing, doing what you do, setting the tone on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. That's what the Paladins were so good at last year, Rob, setting the tone on the line of scrimmage. And if they can do that again, then I expect it's going to be a fun night at Paladin Stadium.
Dan Scott is the voice of the Furman Paladins, and you will hear them tonight right here on the Fan Upstate. We'll be carrying you from pregame all the way through postgame. Dan, go get you some lozenges, my guy, maybe a little sweet tea and honey. Sit down, relax. You got a big night, fella. Looking forward to hearing the game.
Yeah, the best part about tonight is we go on the air at 5:30, so we get to preempt Mark Ryan.
Listen, I'm not going to say I'll be there at 5:30, but I'll be there at 5:30. Dan Scott, I will. My man, Dan, great to talk to you, buddy. Thank you again, pal. We will talk to you next week, bud. There you go. That is Dan Scott, the legendary voice of the Furman Paladins. We're going to run to a break, and when we come back, we keep the conversation rolling. This time, it is with Rashad Beard. He is the voice of the Carolina Panthers, unofficially. I mean, he's our voice of the Carolina Panthers. He hosts the Panther Nation podcast, and he talks some Panther Nation football with us when we come back on the Rob Brown Show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, I'm going to step out again so we can get Rashad loaded up. We'll come back here in just a minute. Panther fans, stick around. Don't go anywhere.
To the season ranked 6th in the FCS preseason poll. They're coming off a 10-win season.
More than 80
What's up, big fella?
depend on AM radio each month.
What's up? How's it going?
How we doing, buddy?
Pretty good.
Here on a Thursday, college football Thursday. Feeling good. We'll get into some of the names. How you feel about the cuts? A couple of surprises.
Yeah, a couple of surprises, but I think that it was due.
Yeah.
It was due.
Rashad, are you hearing any echo or anything?
Nah, sounds great.
Okay, good. All right, perfect.
Do you got my theme music ready?
Oh, that's right.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, it's not joking.
What is
I
it?
don't know where he put it.
What's it
No,
called?
it's cool. It's cool.
It's like it's a James Bond song.
It's cool. I'm joking, man. It's all good.
I'm not
It's all
Rashad.
good.
We don't play around here.
It's not labeled James Bond. Crap.
Okay.
How you spell your name?
Rashad, Rashad.
No,
That's what I
probably-
thought. Okay. Okay, he didn't put it in that way either. Is it Mission Impossible or something?
No.
Or no. Mission Impossible is.
Here, do this. when
Wrong
we
movie.
are when we're coming back. You know which computer belongs to this?
Okay.
When we're coming back, don't play music. Turn the co-host mic on. Take it out of YouTube. Actually, no, leave it there. Screw it, I don't care. We're only gonna play it like 15 seconds.
Okay.
How far out are we?
We are 30 seconds.
Excellent.
That's 800-948-9401. When a cold comes on strong, knock it out with Vicks DayQuil Severe for max strength daytime relief. Just one dose of Vicks DayQuil Severe.
Got the tickets for Monday Night Football in the bank, Rashad.
Yep, you're gonna see your boys lose.
Shoot. First ballot Hall of Famer Derek Carr coming to town, baby.
You just gonna run that bed?
No used cars.
I'd be jealous too, bro. Don't worry about it.
I think I'm
Go ahead.
okay, bro.
Real sports talk for real sports fans.
The Rob Brown Show.
2,
Now
1.
Say what you want. It's the bangest of bangers, man. It just is. This might be the go hardest video game music of all time, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Joining us now from a secret compound located somewhere in or around Charlotte, North Carolina. We can't tell you where it is. We'd have to kill you if we did. He is the voice that you hear on the Panther Nation podcast. I would give it time, but they're live all the damn time. Rashad Beard joins us here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate to talk a little Panther football. What's up, fella?
What's going on, man? You delivered on the theme music. I appreciate that. You said you was going to deliver some trap bond, and that's what I heard. So I appreciate that.
Listen, that was. I went simple today. That was the pause music. Rashad, you're just a little bit younger than I am. GoldenEye on N64
I remember.
was a game that revolutionized everybody's view of games, man. Multiplayer GoldenEye ended friendships, dude. Like whole ass relationships fell apart because somebody wanted to be Odd Job and we all hated that person. That's just what it was.
Facts. No, it's facts. You're right. You're right.
All right, let's talk a little football with Rashad Beard. Again, host of the Panther Nation podcast. You can find them on social media at Panther Nation PC, but make sure that you look them up and subscribe to them on YouTube as well. And Shad, obviously the big news this week was roster cuts. There were a few that jumped out at me. Deion Jones was on that list. We found out yesterday Matt Corral got waived as well. Just give me your overall thoughts on the roster cuts. Which ones jumped out at you? Which ones surprised you? Which ones do you think were the right move, even if the fan base is confused by them?
Yeah, I think moving on from Matt Corral was a right move. I think a couple of people are upset about that. I don't think he got a fair shake, which I kind of made that determination as soon as he got drafted. This was going to happen to him, and that's just what it is when you have a lame duck coach that drafts a quarterback. And so unfortunate for him. It does suck for him, but that's the reality of the game. I think Deion Jones was a big surprise. We brought him in for a veteran presence, but I thought there were some guys that ended up playing well. Kamu Grugier-Hill did a great job. You like that? You like that?
That's solid effort, buddy.
Yeah. So no, he did a great job. I think he surprised a lot of guys.
On the air for a second there.
No, he did it. So Grugier-Hill did a great job, and so I think he surprised some folks. And I think Deion Jones became expendable at that point. He looked okay during the preseason, but we kind of picked him up off the bench out of nowhere. It wasn't doing much in the offseason, and picked him up off the bench and just came through. And I think he didn't quite turn out to be what we thought he was going to be. Well, I think some of the bigger surprises for some of us, Brandon Smith, that's a guy that, again, out of Penn State, drafted him a couple years ago. He has all the athletic tools, but to me, I think he was playing out of position. He was pegged as a outside linebacker to me coming out of college. Moved him inside, and I just think he got lost in the shuffle, and I think he became expendable at that point. So Brandon Smith is a guy that I was surprised they cut. I didn't think they would do it. I kind of called it. I saw it happening, but I didn't think they would actually do it. Got him out of here. And then Shi Smith, I think it's another big surprise for a lot of people around here. He's a Gamecock. So I think, again, if I had to summarize this waiver cut and these 53-man roster cut, I would call it moving on from mid. I think that we really some of these guys we kind of overhype because they're Carolina Panthers and because we support them because they're Panthers. But at the end of the day, you look at what the NFL thinks about these guys. Those guys did get claimed. So they're mid, and at the end of the day, it is what it is. So I'm happy. I'm rolling. I like the guys we picked up as well. So I'm with it. I'm with it.
Talk to me about Shi because we're down here. We're closer to Columbia than you are. We got a lot of Gamecocks in the audience, and a lot of us, and I'll say us because I'll put myself in this mix, really wanted to see this guy get there and thrive and succeed and make the 53-man. But I also said on the show earlier this week that there was never a point that Shi really stood out. There was never a point that he went, okay, I can see the future in this guy. And then you combine that with the fact that Shi is going to be, or as I should say, built to be, a slot receiver. Adam Thielen's eaten up about 130% of the snaps out of the slot. You brought in the kid from the Chiefs in the trade on cut day, who can be a kick returner as well. So Shi kind of lost that edge to stay on there. I hate it. It's unfortunate. I wanted the kid to succeed, but the reality is there just wasn't enough footballs to go around to justify eating up a roster spot with Shi Smith. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because you brought up a great point, and people don't really realize this, but you have to make yourself valuable somewhere. And special teams is generally where that value comes from when you're a guy on the fringe like that. And Shi, it's not about opportunity because he had opportunity. There was plenty of opportunity, albeit with the prior coaching staff, but there was opportunity for Shi Smith to show his value. And when you bring in a guy like Bryce Young, you can't wait for guys to develop. You need proven guys so that Bryce Young feels comfortable, and Shi just never came along. And again, I think he had the opportunity to make himself valuable in special teams, and that just did not happen. So when you can't make yourself valuable in the slot where you're pegged to be, and then you can't make yourself valuable on special teams, at the end of the day, there's no room for you. And I do like this guy that we picked up from the Chiefs, Smith Marset. This guy has some juice. I mean, he can kick, punt return. And he's he's got some speed. He can play in the slot. I like this guy a lot. So it was an upgrade. And so at the end of the day, we're moving on from mid, getting better. I hate to say it. Sorry to all the Gamecock fans, but Shi was just mid.
Hey, listen, I tell people all the time, when it gets to the NFL, I don't give a damn about your college affiliation anymore, right? Like if you went to my rival, but you make my team better, we're family, bro. That's just how it is. And the opposite is true, too. Just because you played for my school, if you can't make my team better, there's not room. And that's kind of what I think that is one of the major disconnects between college fans and NFL fans. And we kind of watched that play out this weekend. Let's go back to preseason game number 3. BY gets his first TD as a Carolina Panther. And I got to wonder if maybe that kind of unlocked a little bit of confidence that we have been waiting. Not that BY was lacking confidence, but to get the job done the first time, even if you have that confidence, can feel good. He looked a lot more comfortable, a lot more fluid to me in week 3. He looked a lot more, and this is what you wanted to see, a lot more week 1 ready in week 3 of the preseason than he did in the first 2.
Yeah, offensive line protected him. That's key. Offensive line played well. And you can see what happens when he has time. The ball placement, the anticipation of the throw to Thielen, he put it right in his face mask. You can't get it. You can't have a better throw than what he did on Sunday in week 3 or whenever the game was. He did an amazing job. I like how he's progressing. He's getting all the playmakers involved. The chemistry between him and Mingo is still developing, but when it gets there, it's going to be problematic for the entire NFL. I think that mesh between those two is coming along, and I can't wait to see what happens. But I'm so glad we got a guy like Thielen to provide that veteran presence to help BY develop and feel comfortable. But again, like I said, it all goes back to the offensive line. And I think what's going to help him out even more that we have yet to see is a really, really good run game. We haven't seen Miles Sanders yet, and I firmly believe when you see we kept 5 tight ends, we're going to run the football a lot. And if that run game is on point, BY can definitely take his time and do what he has to do when it comes to throwing the football. I think it's going to be a very, very good, and we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen the full breadth of this offense, so I can't wait to see it.
I am interested in seeing that confidence and seeing that growth when he does have Miles Sanders behind him. And the whole thought I had, and by the way, Miles Sanders last week said he is 100% good to go for that week 1 game against Atlanta. What I'm interested to see is how Frank Reich and Bryce Young take the versatility of Miles Sanders into consideration in their offensive plan, right? Because Raheem Blackshear is a dude I think can be a running back you can trust to kind of flare out, catch some screens, run some wheels to pull linebackers and keep them playing laterally. But that's kind of what Miles Sanders is. He can run between the tackles, but he can get lateral as well. I think he opens up an aspect of this offense that Carolina either didn't have or didn't show in the preseason. And frankly, Rashad, I think it might be the most important part of the offense because it stops you from being able to key up on BY and take advantage of an offensive line that's still got some growth it needs to go through.
Yeah, I 1000% agree. Miles Sanders is going to be a very, very big part of this offense. You heard Frank Reich say it as soon as he got here when they signed Miles Sanders that he's going to be an every down back. He's going to stay on the field. He's going to get a lot of touches. And I can't wait. I cannot wait to see it. You saw Miles Sanders do this his rookie year in Philadelphia. And I don't know what Philadelphia was thinking as things went along with him throughout his career at Philadelphia. They just stopped utilizing him in the pass game. And so I think that we're going to get back to that 1,000%, shades of, I'm not saying he's Christian McCaffrey, but I'm going to say shades of Christian McCaffrey. And I think he's going to catch the football. He's going to be able to, get those those short yard situations. He's going to be an every down back. And I think it's going to be a very, very big part to Bryce Young's development and how Frank Reich calls his play. So again, Frank Reich, you think offensive minded coach, you think a lot of passing of the football. No, Frank Reich, you see what he did with Jonathan Taylor. They're going to run the football a lot. They're going to incorporate him in the pass game, and I 1,000% agree with your assessment.
Okay. I'm going to need you to clarify real quick. I need you to define very clearly what you mean by shades of Christian McCaffrey, man.
Yeah. So when I say shades of Christian McCaffrey,
style, right?
No, I'm saying when I say shades of Christian McCaffrey, I mean the amount of touches. Like, so my opinion.
I got worried about you for a second, bro.
No. My opinion on Christian McCaffrey is that, listen, Christian McCaffrey is a great running back, but if you give a running back the ball as many times as Christian McCaffrey touches the football, there's a good chance that running back is going to produce. So when you touch the football 50 times a game, you're gonna put up some good numbers. And so when I that's what I mean by that. I think he's going to touch the football a lot, 20 plus times a game. And when you do that, the numbers are going to look similar to what Christian McCaffrey put up. I'm not saying he's as good.
Okay. I got worried for a second. I thought you were telling me y'all found a new CMC and I was about to fly to Charlotte to fight you in your own parking lot, bro.
No. Christian McCaffrey's a great running back, man. Great running back.
Rashad Beard hosts the Panther Nation podcast. Follow them on Twitter at Panther Nation PC, but make sure you are tuned in to their YouTube. What you guys got coming up?
Yeah, so yesterday we did an NFC South roundtable that just went live. So that one is out now. So go check that out.
Me. Rude.
So we got a group of guys, a group of content creators from the NFC South that we always link up. We've been doing it for about 3-4 years now, and it's always fun. A lot of shots being taken at each other. This is great. So check that out. It's really fun watch.
Go to YouTube. Check out the Panther Nation podcast. I'm going to be on that damn podcast one day. I don't know what it's going to take, but it's going to happen.
You will.
Rashad, appreciate it, fella. We'll see you next Thursday when it's time to talk week 1, big dog.
Absolutely, guys. Let's get it.
There you go. Rashad Beard from the Panther Nation podcast. We got to run to a break. When we come back, the Atlanta Braves offense has done something historic, and they did it a month before the conclusion of the regular season. I'll tell you what it is when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
This is Cole Bryson. Are you ready for the ultimate adrenaline?
Yep, at Nebraska, Keegan. That is actually going to be talked about because it was electric, dude. Electric. All right, running to the restroom, kids, hitting the head, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about that. All right, dudes and dudettes, thanks for hanging out. Yeah, I don't know if I could say Miles Sanders is going to be an every down back. Chuba's got to get some touches.
AmericanEagle.com. I've known them for 25 years. In my career, I learned that success isn't just about talent, it's about teamwork. That's what you'll find at AmericanEagle.com. They'll listen to your goals and work with you and handle all your digital properties. They'll ensure your website is user-friendly, responsive, and optimized for search engines. AmericanEagle.com also provides ongoing support and digital marketing strategies that will keep you ahead of the
That was 55. Should have been 55, 40.
Whether you're a medium to large business or a big
No,
time player,
55, 30.
AmericanEagle.com is the top
That's
choice.
right then.
Visit www.americaneagle.com for website design, development,
No,
and
55,
online
45
solutions that
is
deliver
right.
efficiency and results. Go to AmericanEagle.com or call them at 877-WEB-NOW-1.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3 the official sports voice of you, the upstate fan. CBS Sports Radio. Live from the Philadelphia. Morning.
Man, check this out.
You're on official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents Freedom Win. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. Lockdown. This is the Rob Brown Show. Get Rob. Only on
Our numero dos already, ladies and gentlemen, is on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. How's everybody? You doing good? Yeah, great, awesome, amazing. So glad to hear it. I am Rob Brown, my man T2, the Timidator on the other side of the metaphorical glass to say I'm pushing all the buttons and switching all the switches that makes the show sound as good as it does. Got a pair of Furman football tickets to give away to you coming up here in just minutes from right now. We have got, of course, for you. Actually, you know what I need to do? I need to see if Alonzo's going to join us for Fight Club today. He may or may not be. We will see coming up later in the show. We have got to get to tonight's college football games because we've got a slate including Florida and Utah. And that one's interesting to me, not because of the team out of the Southeastern Conference, but because of the team out of Utah. And I'm intrigued by that one because the Utes are a team that nobody seems to be picking out of the Pac-12. What'd I do this time? I don't know. What did I do this time?
I don't have another 2 hours. Sorry.
Fair enough. Checks out. Checks out. The old see me in my office in person. That feels great. So I like Utah. I'm interested in Utah, and Utah's got a chance to make a statement tonight. Utah, a team that I absolutely think is a strong possibility of winning the Pac-12 this year. I really do. So we'll talk about that game coming up later on in the show. But before we get there, let's talk baseball for just a minute. All right. I got 2 more days of 2 to 3 baseball segments a week. And now feels like as good a time as any to cash in on one of them. Why, you ask? It is because, ladies and gentlemen, the Atlanta Braves have done something pretty damn impressive. You know, for most Major League Baseball franchises, to set your single season franchise record for dingus is something that you're fighting down to the very end of the season, maybe the last week, maybe the last 2 weeks if you're on a good pace. To set the record for the most dingus by your franchise is usually something that you hear about towards the end of September, the end of the regular season. The Atlanta Braves have just done it, and it is not even September yet. Y'all, last night, in the waning hours of August 30th of the year 2023, Orlando Arcia went yard to left center and recorded the 250th home run in the 6th inning of a 7-3 win over the Rockies last night at Coors Field. Now, it always felt like, since about 4 weeks into the season that this team was going to threaten a number of franchise marks for the Atlanta program. It feels like, still to this day, it feels like the Atlanta Braves are going to threaten some longstanding National League offensive records. It feels like these Atlanta Braves are going to threaten some all-time Major League Baseball records. But in order to get to all-time records, you've got to break down and crush through the brick wall that is franchise records. And last night, the Bravos set the record for most home runs in a single season for this franchise when Orlando Arcia went yard for number 250, the most in a single season in the history of the Atlanta/Boston/Milwaukee Braves. That's impressive. It is impressive, ladies and gentlemen. It is impressive because it's August, right? If this record fell like September 18th, September 21st, like that's pretty good, right? Got another week or 2 weeks left in the regular season. That's pretty impressive, to be honest with you. But it didn't. Y'all, this record fell before the beginning of September. Marcell Ozuna, Kelvin Pillar, and Orlando Arcia all went yard last night as the Braves started Darius Vines. The number 30 prospect in their pipeline got called up to go toss a game at Colorado. And that is not easy because Colorado is one of the most offensive-friendly stadiums in Major League Baseball. In fact, Darius Vines last night became the first to throw their debut at Colorado and hold the Rockies to fewer than 2 runs. He was very good. Of course, you can pitch with a little more confidence. You can pitch with a little less trepidation when your offense is out there clubbing. And the Braves club, I heard a stat at the end of that game last night. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. The Braves played the Rockies 7 times this year. The Braves went 7-0 against the Rockies. Now, that in and of itself is not all that impressive because the Rockies are bad at baseball. They are 49-84. They are 13 points away from being 500. And they are 34 and a half games back of the Dodgers in the National League West. By the way, a Dodgers team that is now 83-49 and within 4 games of Atlanta. Dude, this NLCS could very well be played in Los Angeles and not Atlanta, as we've all felt very confident about. But we'll see. The Bravos on pace to win 106. The Dodgers on pace to win 101, maybe 102. And there's plenty of time left, and the Dodgers are playing good ball. They're 8-2 in their last 10, but the Braves are 7-3. It's not that far off. The Phillies are making a run too. The Phillies are 7-3 in their last 10, and all of a sudden they are clubbing. Now, they're not going to catch the Braves in the division. The Braves are 13 and a half games up on everybody else in the NL East. But the Phillies scare me a little bit if they are mashing like this come playoff time. We'll talk about that when we get closer to the regular season. But I think it is important to talk about what this team is doing offensively. Now, the Braves are on pace now to hit 307 home runs. If you want to be precise, it is 306.8 something home runs this season. The record for most home runs clubbed in a single season would be eclipsed if the Braves can get to 308. 307 home runs would tie the record. 308 would eclipse it, set by the 2019 Twins. The Braves broke the franchise record for dingers set in 2019 when Ronald Acuna Jr., Freddie Freeman, and Josh Donaldson all hit at least 37 home runs. Last year's ball club had 243 home runs. That is third in franchise history. Brian Snicker, the manager of the Bravos, was asked after the game last night about their ability to go Yad. And Snicker said, quote, "We've been a team that slugs. That's how we're constructed, and the guys do it." So who's responsible for this? Well, you've got 3 players that have crossed the 30 home run mark. Matt Olson has 43. Marcelo Zuna has 31. Austin Riley has 31. There are 2 more guys that are threatening to get there. Ronald Acuna Jr. is sitting on 29. Ozzie Albies is sitting on 28 as of right now. Matt Olson, of course, just one dinger back of Shohei Ohtani. He has not clubbed one in a little while. It feels like there's an explosion due for one Matt Olson. Back in 2019, the Minnesota Twins had 5 players who hit 30 home runs or more. If Ronnie and Ozzie can get to that 30 mark, the Braves would join the 2019 teams as the 2019 Twins, as the only 2 teams in Major League Baseball history to have 5 players reach 30-plus homers in the same season. One of those Twins was Eddie Rosario. He and Sean Murphy both currently sit on 20 home runs. That means that if either one of them is able to race to 10 more home runs, the Braves could become the first team to ever have 6 players with 30 home runs. So this is intriguing, man. This is intriguing. But see, it's not just that for Atlanta. The Braves offensively right now are having one of the best years of any team ever. If you go look right now, the Braves, through 132 games, are currently leading the National League and Major League Baseball in runs scored with 770. The next closest, 23 back, you find the LA Dodgers. The Braves currently lead Major League Baseball in hits. They have 1,249 hits. That is 9 more than number 2, the Texas Rangers. As far as home runs go, obviously, with that 250, the Braves lead Major League Baseball. The next closest, the Dodgers with 208. As RBIs go, the Braves, stop me if you've heard this, lead Major League Baseball with 744. Basically, everything that the Braves can lead the Major League Baseball in, they do. So I think that's overall pretty damn impressive. Oh, that's right. They lead Major League Baseball in team batting average with a 276. The next closest team are the Rangers at 268. They lead Major League Baseball in on-base percentage at 345. The next closest team, the Dodgers, at 341. They lead Major League Baseball in slugging percentage. They are right at 500. The next closest team is the Dodgers at 460. And they lead Major League Baseball in OPS at 845. The next closest team is sitting at 801. And just so you are aware, the average RPI sits somewhere in the neighborhood of the low 720s. The Braves are at 845. That is a ridiculous set of numbers for this offense. A ridiculous set of numbers for this offense. Michael says they don't lead in stolen bases. That's Cincy. Yeah, that's true. But they lead by a lot in dingers, Mike, which means that they have fewer base runners, right? That being said, Ronald Acuna, now a member of some pretty elite spots, the 60-30 club. Ronald Acuna Jr. is the best stealer in the league right now, right? And the Braves are a team that is big on XBHs, a team that is big on dingers, which means that the opportunities to steal and the necessity of stealing right now just isn't there. Let's take a look at the run differentials. The higher your run differential, the lesser the need to steal backs, right? If you are winning games 7-3, like you did last night, you don't need a ton of steals. Check this out as far as run differential goes. Right now, the Atlanta Braves are plus 235 in run differential. They are plus 103 at home. They are plus 132 on the road. Just for comparison's sake, last year, the Braves ended the season at plus 169. This year, they're at plus 235. Now, sure, that can change. In fact, I would expect it to bounce around a little bit because the Bravos are about to have a four-gamer against the Dodgers, and this might very well be an NLCS preview. In fact, I would, at this point, be willing to put a little scratch down that it is. The Braves and the Dodgers are going to play 4 games. The Dodgers right now, again, for comparison's sake, are 65 runs below Atlanta in the run differential. Atlanta 235, the Dodgers plus 170. The next closest team to Atlanta in the run differential is Tampa Bay. They are plus 186. I'm bad at math, but that to me is like a solid 49 runs difference between Atlanta and Tampa. And oh, by the way, let's take a look at the pitching for Atlanta, because that's been the big problem, right? That's been the big problem. The big problem has been pitching. The big problem has been, can Atlanta's pitchers get them through a long series? Well, just because I'm curious. Let's take a look at it. In terms of overall ERA, this is team ERA. The Braves' team ERA is 3.79. That is the third best in Major League Baseball right now. The third best in Major League Baseball is a 3.79. That is ridiculous, dudes. It's ridiculous. Now, teams can touch up Atlanta. They are the third from the bottom in runs allowed so far. So they when they get touched up, they get touched up. All right. But I would say overall, the Braves pitching staff is surprisingly good. As far as it, now, I know not a lot of you guys love to lean on ERA, but it's an important stat. Allowed batting average. This is batting average against the entire staff, all pitchers considered. The Braves are 7th in the league, tied with the Padres at .239. The difference between they and the Rays, who are up top in first, and by the way, they're going to fall off because they've got some pitching injuries, but that's a different topic. The Braves are .08. Excuse me, scratch that. .08 behind the leader. They are at .239. The Rays are at .231 in opposing batting average. Batting average allowed to the other team. Again, that is a ridiculous number. All right? It just is. So, all that being said, it means nothing until we get to the playoffs. Because, as has been pointed out many times and will be pointed out many more, in the playoffs, good pitching beats good offense. In the playoffs, good pitching beats good offense. But the Braves have well above average pitching. It ain't the best in the league, but it is well above average pitching. And they have the single most prolific offense in the history of this organization. They have the single most prolific offense in Major League Baseball this year. And they are going to threaten the 2019 Twins for perhaps the single most prolific offense in the history of Major League Baseball. If the Braves don't win the National League, I will say it as a disappointment, even with as good as the Dodgers, scratch that, even with as well as the Dodgers are playing right now. Couple of comments that you guys have sent in on the stream so far. My guy Brandon says NLCS starts tonight. First game tonight in LA of a 4-game set for the weekend. Huge implications. Go Bravos. We got all our horses for this one. Strider tonight. Matt Lanta waited for this series to unload some more bombs. Hopefully he is due. Free tomorrow. Elder Saturday. Uncle Charlie closing out Sunday. Praying for a sweep. Look, I would be Brandon in this spot based on how well the Dodgers are playing. They had one of the best August. The Dodgers had an August like the Rays had April. Just unbelievably good. If the Braves and Dodgers split this series 2-2, I'll be thrilled. If the Braves win this series 3-1, I will lose my mind. If the Braves sweep this series, you will not be able to contain me Monday. It may be a 3-hour Brave show if they sweep this series coming up on Monday. Let's see. Michael says, Ronnie Acuna better than Shohei Ohtani. Fight me. Ohtani may pitch a little better, except not now. No, he's not. You know I love me some Ronnie Acuna. You know I love me some Ronald Acuna Jr. Shohei Ohtani is the best baseball player I've ever seen. He's the best baseball player you've ever seen. He is the best baseball player this planet has ever seen. I will stand on that hill. I will die on that hill. And the fact that the Angels have decided once again to screw the pooch is nothing shy of freaking hilarious to me. James said, I won't be okay until the Phillies are dead. I got to tell you, here's the good news for Atlanta. As it stands right now, the good news for Atlanta in the National League is that you do lead the NL with an 87-45 record. The Dodgers are 83-49. The Brewers are 74-59 as a division winner, which means that right now the wild card race shapes up with the Phillies holding the top spot at 74-59, the Cubs holding the next spot at 71-62, and then you've got the Reds at 69-66, the Giants at 69-64, the Diamondbacks at 69-65, and the Marlins at 66-67. Those are the rest of your wild card teams. The Phillies have the best wild card record right now by 3 games over the Cubs. If the Phillies hang on to that spot, the Braves likely would not see Philadelphia until and unless they made it to the NLCS, which, fingers crossed, I would rather do it in the NLCS and let the Phillies, hopefully, let the Phillies bats cool off against top-notch playoff pitching than see them out of the gate. Let's take a break. When we come back, I got some more stuff I want to get to. We got college football to get to. We got to make some picks for tonight, both straight up and against the spread. 91,000 plus people clambered into a stadium last night. 91,000 people got together to watch a massive sporting event, and it was not football. We'll talk about that coming up and more on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
The sports voice of you, the Upstate fan. That's 844-926-3663. The most football play-by-play all season. NFL Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night football. Biggest college games of the weekend. Herman Paladins and Burns Rebels play-by-play. Plus, the most compelling gridiron talk all week with Rob Brown 9 to noon and Mark Ryan 3 to 7 when it comes to football.
I hope they can't hear that.
Upstate 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg, and everywhere on the free Odyssey app.
From the News Talk 98.1 Weather Center, here's the Carolinas' most trusted forecast on the Fan Upstate. Sunny today with a high of 85. Tonight, partly cloudy and low near 63. Friday, sunshine high around 80 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun high 82. Sunday high 88. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on The Fan Upstate. Currently, it's 77.
The Panthers still have another week and a half before they open their regular season, but rookie quarterback Bryce Young showed that he's tracking right along on pace following the final preseason game. I'm Jim Zoki with a Panthers update after this.
The only way to be your best self is with your best health. When you have a health partner who doesn't just treat part of you, they care for all of you. That's why more people prefer Atrium Health, because unrivaled care is easier, more accessible, and more complete than ever before, so that you can enjoy more of the moments you love. That's what it means to live meaningfully, to live joyfully, to live fully with Atrium Health.
Panthers open their regular season in Atlanta on September the 10th, so there are still plenty of days to get in work before the games count in the standings. Of course, the biggest focus has been on the development of rookie first overall pick quarterback Bryce Young. He played in all three preseason games, completing 14 out of 24 passes for 129 yards and a touchdown with no interceptions. In the final preseason game last weekend against the Lions, he had 2 scoring drives, including a touchdown pass to Adam Thielen as the starter.
How much time we got left, Timmy?
You got 1, 2, 3,
Oh, beautiful.
4, 3, and 45.
All right, guys, give me 1 minute. I'm going to run and grab another drink from the office. I'll be right back.
And millions of other businesses who use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find.
I like that, Joey B. Little 10-to-1 action on the Bravos. I like that. I got him too. I got him at, I think I got him at 9-to-1, so I took him a little bit after you. Me and Andrew jumped in. I got $100 at 9-to-1.
9, 8, 2, 12.
Not a bad bet either. The Phillies have figured out how to get hot at the right time, James, for sure. It's not an awful bet.
Babbel's conversational method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish.
Estoy muy emocionado para ir a España contigo.
Aw, he just said, I'm very excited to go to Spain with you. Nos vamos a divertir mucho.
And that means we're going to have a lot of fun.
Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Hey, Rob Bradford here. I have set out on a mission with my good friend at FanDuel to prove what I have known for some time. Baseball isn't boring. Now I have a daily podcast to prove it with some of the most notable people in the baseball world, screaming baseball isn't boring from the mountaintops, or at least agreeing to come on our show. Players, managers, GMs, and yes, even the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred. It has been a constant wave of baseball with powerful voices. So join the revolution. Subscribe and soak in Baseball Isn't Boring. Listen on your Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. You'll be glad you did.
Sponsored by Corley Plumbing, Air and Electric.
At Corley Plumbing, Air and Electric, we offer flexible scheduling to meet your needs. Call Corley Plumbing, Air and Electric today, or skip the line and book online. CorleyPro.com. That's CorleyPro.com.
Always streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey app. Make the Fan Upstate a favorite.
The Rob Brown Show continues. It is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, my friends. I am ever so glad to have you here on the show. Rob Brown, man, T2 the Timinator, filling in for the great one, Lonzo. He will make his triumphant return next week after the conclusion of week 1 for the college football season. Speaking of college football, let's get to a story that started making the rounds yesterday. It's a bit of a short segment here, so I'll go ahead and throw this one in. Heather Denich of ESPN wrote an article that is up on their website right now discussing the discussions ongoing about potential further changes to the college football playoff format. There is another round of question marks taking place, and I think understandably so, right? Because at the conclusion of this football season, there will be no more Pac-12, all right? I know the Pac-12 dudes are doing all they can to try to stick around. The Pac-12 dudes are doing all they can to try to convince you that they're not going anywhere, that a 108-year-old conference is not going to dissolve. But the reality is that it is. And it doesn't matter whether Stanford and California end up making it into the Atlantic Coast Conference or not. Those 4 teams, no matter what other teams nationally you add to the Pac-12, cannot float as a Power 5 conference. They are done, my dudes. And so with the Pac-12 being done, a round of discussions opened up about the best way to handle the playoff format, who gets in, who gets out, right? The current model of the NCAA playoffs beginning in 2024 includes the 6th highest ranked conference champions plus the next 6 highest ranked teams, which allows for all 5 Power 5 conference champions plus 1 group of 5 champion. However, if the Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore, which most of us think that it likely will not, then the question becomes, what next? So the discussion was that the CFP was considering changing the criteria to the 5 highest ranked conference champions plus the next 7 highest ranked teams. And the group also discussed the option, and honestly, this is kind of the one I like the most. Fight me, bro. The option of the top 12 teams. Just 12 at-large teams and the top 12 at-large teams getting into the playoffs next year. So last night, the folks who are the makers of decisions, the folks who get together and have the discussions about what next and why, well, they did so. And they made no decisions yesterday because they are still waiting to find out what happens to the 4 remaining Pac-12 teams, Cal, Stanford, Washington State, and Oregon State. Part of the discussions are currently being held up by the Atlantic Coast Conference, who are trying to decide if they want to invite Cal, Stanford, and potentially SMU. Now, yesterday's meeting was supposed to be attended by ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips. He was supposed to be in that room. The room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. Hamilton, you're welcome. But he was not there. He was not in the room where it happened because of travel issues related to Hurricane Idalia and its remnants making its way through the Carolinas. He did participate in the 5-hour meeting by video conference, and when asked, did not provide the room any update on possible conference expansion. That, according to College Football Playoff Commissioner, Executive Director Bill Hancock. Hancock said, quote, to the matter of conference realignment, we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to wait until the dust settles before making any decisions about how that might affect CFP. The fact is, we just don't know yet. No one knows how conference realignment is going to wind up, and it would just be premature to make any decisions about it, end quote. American Athletic Conference Commissioner Mike Oresco said that his conference hopes to know, quote, fairly soon, end quote, if SMU plans on departing to join the ACC. He said his league does have, quote, contingency plans in place if SMU does bail. He said, quote, we're weighing how to deal with that. We had a major meeting today with our ADs and presidents this morning. It'll get resolved pretty quickly. I don't think it can go on too much longer. None of this is really healthy when it drags on, but we have a great relationship with SMU, end quote. He also went on to say, quote, when we heard Stanford and Cal have no place to go, well, that's not true. They had a place to go. They weren't orphans. It's the idea that there's this desperation now because of the P5 branding. I understand the issue of money. It's based on TV deals, but guys are willing to go for virtually nothing because they feel they need that branding. We're seeing that play out now. Interesting. That word brand sure has picked up a lot of power in the last couple of years, hasn't it? That word brand sure does seem to matter a lot more, doesn't it? Yes, it does. NIL. What is NIL? Name, image, and likeness. If I asked you to wrap name, image, and likeness all into one word, do you know what word would be the easiest, the best, the most efficient to use? Brand. That's what that is. Your name and your image and your likeness, your reputation is your brand. And yes, Power 5 is a brand. Power 5 is a brand that means something. But see, here's the thing. We already know that. That's not a shock to me. That's not new. The reason that this is even a discussion is because the Power 5 conference's brand is the best football conferences. That's why they're the Power 5 and not the Big 5 or the 5 or a 5 or whatever. Not the High 5. They're that because they are the Power 5. That's where the power lies. So as much as the AAC would very much love to pretend, like their conference matters in all this, it really doesn't. Now, if you're an all-American athletic conference, whatever, if you're a supporter, if you're a fan, don't get mad at me. Don't get upset with me. This is the direction that college football has been heading since about 1984. We just didn't know how big it was going to get. Around 1984, and I read this the other day, and I need to go pull that article again. I actually have it in my show prep somewhere, but I lost it. Around 1984, there was a Supreme Court decision, and that Supreme Court decision stated that schools were allowed to be in control of their own, not only branding, but their own presentation, right? It used to be before that That football, basically, you got whatever one game you got on a Saturday, and the TV networks had full control over that. And then the Supreme Court handed down a decision in a case argued by a now, I believe he's in his 80s, 83, 4, 5-ish year old lawyer who now is a professor at the University of Oklahoma. He made the argument, and according to the Supreme Court, made it successfully. He made the argument that the schools should have the ability, should have the right to dictate where they play on TV, how they play on TV, yada, yada, yada. And that led to the conferences becoming important to keep them all organized. That was about the time you started seeing college football Saturdays where you've got football on from noon till literally 2 in the morning, right? Hawaii and Vanderbilt kicks off at 11 p.m. Let me make sure I got the right one. But I believe that game kicks off at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Which means that that game is not going to end until 2 o'clock in the morning. That's unbelievable, dude. I am blown away by this. Sorry, not Hawaii, Vanderbilt. They played last week. That game was, by the way, Vanderbilt won that 35-28. They ain't there. Tonight, Southern Utah, Arizona State at 10 p.m. Saturday, Stanford, Hawaii. See, I'm only half an idiot. Stanford, Hawaii kicks off Saturday night at 11 p.m. from the TC Ching Athletics Complex in Honolulu, Hawaii. Around the mid-'80s was when this disaster, this collision course in college football was started. This was when it started down this road. So no one should be shocked. No one should be surprised. No one should be blown away by this. I've told you for a while. This is, whether you like it or not, the inevitable conclusion of a path that we were set down a very long time ago. The playoffs are happening not because it is the best way to determine a national champion. It is, but that's not the reason. The reason that it was set down this path is very simple. Because you get to play more games. And you get to play more games that all of y'all that have called and griped and said, oh, you know, I hate the direction that college football's going in, Rob. I hate the direction college football's growing in. Yo, I get it. I understand. But see, here's the fun part. You're going to watch every one of those games. You're going to watch them like your life depends on it. And you're going to watch them like your life depends on it because it's the best football. It is the best football that you can watch. It is the best football that you can put your eyeballs on. And that's what the Power 5 is. That's the brand that it is. It is why when the playoff 12 was set up, the Power 5 was able to say, hey, all of our conference champions deserve to go. Is it because they truly, genuinely, honestly want to make sure that their conference, no, it has nothing to do with their conference champions. It has to do with their not conference champions. Because here's the thing. Let's say my prediction is correct. And let's put it in the hypothetical world of a 12-team playoff. Georgia goes undefeated regular season 12-0. LSU, let's say, goes 11-1 in the regular season. Let's say they fall this weekend to Florida State and they don't lose another game the rest of the ride. And then we have the SEC championship game in Atlanta, Georgia. It's LSU versus Georgia. And let's say 11-1 LSU knocks off 12-0 Georgia. Both of those teams end up at 12-1. Making sure the conference champions go is just to make sure both of those teams go. Let's say it gets wilder. Let's say LSU loses 2 games. Let's say LSU loses to Florida State and Alabama. Let's say Alabama loses 2 games. And let's say Alabama goes to the SEC title game at 10-2. And let's say that team at 10-2 beats an undefeated Georgia. So Georgia ends up at 12-1. Alabama ends up at 11-2 with an SEC title. The reason they want the Power 5 champions in is so that 11-2 Alabama goes in as a conference champ, and they can still go, wait a minute, Georgia was 12-1 in the best division in football, the best conference in football. I want them in as well. Guys, every single decision that is made, is made for one reason and one reason alone. And that decision is the dollar. Dollar bills, y'all. That's all it is. ACC expansion, dollar bills. How do we stay alive? How do we make sure that we are still getting ours in the age of realignment? Well, the best you have left is Stanford. What? Stanford Cal and SMU do not fit into the Atlantic Coast Conference. So why would they go there? Because it's money in the pot. And by the way, the only reason this discussion is still going on is because SMU said you don't have to give us $1 for 5 years. And Cal and Stanford said, hey, you know what? We'll take 70% of our payout for 5 years or whatever it is. We'll take 70% of our payoff, not the full number, if you let us in. Because it's worth more down the road. This whole thing, I'm so tired of all these discussions. I'm so tired of it. Why? It's ruining college. There's nothing I love better than ESPN people going, college football being all about the money's ruining it. Like it's not them. Like they're not the ones doing it. The call's coming from in the house, my dude. I know it's a bit of a ramble, but it all links up. It all makes sense. It all checks out. It all connects, and it all connects for a reason. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We got 1 segment left in this hour and in the final hour of the show. We look down the Thursday slate of games. We get you set up for when toe meets leather this evening on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
All right.
Sample football opens the season tonight at home against William and Mary. It marks the first season of play in the CAA for the Camels.
I know, I
William
pulled
and
it
Mary
up.
ranks
There it
fourth
is.
overall in the FCS poll heading into the season. Number 6 Furman opens up the season at home tonight against Tennessee Tech. The Paladins enter the CAA this season. They went 10-3 last year. NC Central football opens up the season this Saturday at home. They're the number 9
welcome to do so, and you are welcome to do so if you win. Well, you can buy tickets, anything you want. But if you would like to win 2 tickets to go watch tonight's Furman Paladins game in Paladin Stadium, now is your chance. 844-326-3663. Let's take caller number 3. 844-326-3663. We're going to take caller number 3 right now. You are not only winning 2 tickets to tonight's Furman Paladins football game, but you are going to be entered in, because I'm good at math, with a 20% chance to win. 20% chance to win our grand prize. Our grand prize drawing is going to be 4 club seats plus parking passes to tonight's game. 4 club seats plus parking passes for tonight's game to our grand prize drawing winner. So go ahead, 844-326-3663. Winner gets 2 of them. Grand prize winner, there are 5 winners. 3 from offsides with Mark Ryan, 2 from offsides with Mark Ryan, 3 from the Rob Brown Show. And the winner of the grand prize drawing will get 4 club seats and 2 parking passes for tonight's game. So I believe Tim has our winner. We'll find out who it is here in just a minute from right now. Very excited, man. Football is back, dudes. Football is back. It has been too long. It is back right here in the upstate. We want to thank Dan Scott, again, the voice of the Furman Paladins, for joining us earlier in the show. Again, if you missed that interview, go listen to the first hour on demand. And yeah, man, it's awesome. It's awesome. All right. Coming up in the final hour of the show, it is football day in America, my friends. It is football day in America. We've got a slate of games coming your way this evening. I am going to give you some picks I like in tonight's games. I am going to give you some thoughts on the big games from tonight. Obviously, that big game, the one we're all going to keep an eye on this evening, is going to be Florida versus Utah. The Gators on the road out at the Utes at 8 o'clock. That game will be on ESPN. There are some other ones that are interesting. NC State at UConn. NC State's interesting, man. It feels like NC State has a chance to kind of disrupt the ACC a little bit. Again, I don't think they're good enough to win it, but I do think they're good enough to cause a little havoc. I do think they're good enough to throw a wrench into the system of some of the teams that do have conference title aspirations. Also coming up this evening, Nebraska travels to Huntington Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota, to take on the Golden Gophers. Minnesota will host Nebraska tonight. Game number 1 of the Matt Rule era is underway. We had the Matt Rule error in Charlotte. The Matt Rule era now begins in Nebraska when the Huskers take on the Golden Gophers. I'm intrigued, man. I am. As a matter of fact, this AM, we got a text from my boy Timmy V over with the Swamp Rabbits, big Nebraska guy, and he said the Husker train leaves the station tonight. It's on. So we'll see. We'll see what Matt Rule's Cornhuskers look like, and then we'll wrap it all up at 10 p.m. tonight when Southern Utah takes on Arizona State. Who's our winner there, Timmy Snow? Who's bringing those tickets home and getting themselves entered in the grand prize drawing for those 4 club seats?
Trey Davis.
My guy, Trey, one of our stream crew. Well done, young man. Enjoy the game tonight. All right, let's run to a break. When we come back here in just a minute, we take a look at tonight's week 1 schedule, and we will start going towards Saturday's games as well. My name is Rob Brown, the Timinator. Tim Snow filling in for the great one this week. We are back after this for the final hour of the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Hey, take us over no more. All right, guys, we're going to set up the break. We'll be back in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Sorry about all the breaks today. We've got some technical stuff we're working on, but we'll be right back. The third, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fan Upstate. You know, we ended that last segment with a brief mention of Nebraska football. The Matt Rule era gets underway today. But how about this story? How about the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to like it. You do have to respect it. Nebraska is not a football school. The Husker fans are going to try to convince you that they still deserve all the respect of being a football school, but they're not a football school. As Joey B just accurately pointed out on the stream, Nebraska, my friends, is now a volleyball school. Scratch that. School. Struggling. It's Thursday. I'm excited. There's football tonight. They're now a volleyball school, my dudes. Yesterday, Nebraska's women's volleyball team played a match against Omaha. They beat Omaha 3-0. Now, Rob, who cares, right? Who cares? It's just volleyball. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to lie, and I'm sorry to those of you that are volleyball fans. I don't mean this to be rude. If you want more volleyball, I'm a volleyball fan. I enjoy it. I like it. If you want more volleyball, there's a very simple way to get it. You just gotta get involved in the show. You gotta call, you gotta text, yada yada yada. All right. Volleyball doesn't really move the needle, especially not during football season. But it does in Nebraska. How do I know that? Well, let me tell you how I know that. I know that because yesterday at Memorial Stadium in Nebraska, right there in Lincoln, some fans showed up to watch volleyball. 92,003 in attendance to watch Nebraska take on Omaha. They filled their football stadium. It was a whole deal, my dudes. It was a whole deal. They had the pyro, they had the smoke, they had the lasers. It looked like Nebraska was hosting a college football championship game. 92,000 strong showed up to watch that contest. It was dubbed Volleyball Day in Nebraska. The match was a culmination of months of planning for a program in state that have been trying to push volleyball for years. They went into the home of Nebraska football and they broke the previous world record for women's sports attendance. That record was set last year, April 22nd, in Barcelona, Spain, when FC Barcelona and Wolfsburg played in a Champions League match. Now, here's the fun thing about 92,003 fans being in attendance. That was paid attendance. That was not open up the doors and just whoever's around, let them in. That was not, hey, it's a free beer and free ticket giveaway. That was paid attendance. They did a doubleheader exhibition. They had a Wayne State versus Nebraska Kearney Division II exhibition. And then the Huskers and the Mavericks played. When the tickets were released, they released these tickets, $25 for adults, $5 for high school students and younger. But according to ESPN, on the day of the contest, tickets were going for as much as $400 on the secondary market. Nebraska middle blocker Andy Jackson said, quote, "It's incredible. I don't have enough words to describe it. We were walking out of the tunnel after the second set, and we heard on the speaker we had just broken the world record. Everyone was trying to stay locked in, but we were also so excited. I can't describe how grateful I am to be a part of it." The previous record for a women's sporting event in the United States was the Women's World Cup soccer final between Team USA and China at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California on July 10th, 1999. I was 14 years old then. I am now 38. That is how long that record stood. It was a landmark event for women's athletics in general. It was a landmark event for women's soccer. There are many people who believe that you can circle that on the calendar as kind of the beginning of not just the soccer renaissance in the United States, but of the women's football renaissance in the United States. Of course, that was the Lightning game where Brandy Chastain knocked in the winning PK and then went sports bra on the pitch in a poster that a lot of us had on our walls, hypothetically speaking, in college after that. That was a big moment. 92,000. Now, here's an even funner number. Nebraska was also involved in the previous biggest crowd to see an NCAA women's volleyball match, the national championship match between the Huskers and eventual winner Wisconsin on December 18th, 2021 at Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio, which was attended by 18,755. That's big. The previous regular season attendance for a women's volleyball match was back in September of 2021 when Wisconsin hosted 16,883. Last night, they packed 92,000 into the stadium. It was easily the largest attendance of any non-football game, with one exception that we know of right now. When a 2010 outdoor hockey game between Michigan and Michigan State in Ann Arbor pulled in over 113,000. So congratulations to those women. Congratulations to Nebraska. That's momentous, dude. That is momentous, and I love to see it. Keegan said for that first game I was talking about, that Chastain game, he said, I was 9. Okay, child. All right, child. I get it. All right. Let's take a look at tonight's college football schedule. We are getting it started with a quadrant of games at 7 p.m. Elon is at Wake Forest. Kent State is at UCF in Orlando. Atlanta will see Rhode Island at Georgia State. And St. Francis is at Western Michigan. Then at 7:30, NC State is at UConn, and I'm intrigued by that one. At 8 p.m. tonight, Florida will be at number 14, Utah. This is, without question, the most intriguing game on the slate tonight. Florida's over-under is set at 5.5. It's not great. Now, there's good news, bad news here. If you are a Gator, if you're a Gusty Gator, the good news here is that this year was never the year that Billy Napier was going to hit the ground, because Billy Napier's strength so far at the University of Florida has all been about recruiting, right? It's all been about recruiting. This is year 2 for Billy Napier in a massive rebuilding effort in Gainesville. They went 6-7 last fall. They've got to replace quarterback Anthony Richardson, an NFLer. They've got to replace offensive lineman Osiris Torrance. By the way, Osiris is a hell of a name. All right. That's an all-name team contribution if I've ever heard one. They also had a defense that ranked at the bottom or near the bottom of the SEC last year. Now, they got good news. Graham Mertz comes down from Wisconsin. And from what I understand, he has developed quite a bit during his time in Gainesville. Their offensive line, from what I understand, is going to be a dramatic improvement over the 2023 season. Problem for Florida, they play in the Southeastern Conference, and their non-conference matchups bookend with Utah, number 14 in the country, on one end, and then they end it against Florida State, a team that is starting as a top 10 team. So this game tonight, I think, is going to be it's going to be a game that is heavily tilted towards the University of Utah, towards The Utes, Yana. The Utes. It's a good week one matchup. All right. Last year, Utah came up just short in Gainesville by a score of 29-26. Anthony Richardson was ridiculous last year, went over 100 on the ground last year, but they don't have that last year. And Utah this year does have Cam Rising. Now, we are unsure, unless they have released it in the last couple of hours. It looks like Cam Rising is in jeopardy to play tonight. The last report I saw was last night as I was laying down my sweet head to call it an evening when I saw that Pete Thamel was reporting they do not expect Cam Rising to play. He has been rehabbing a torn ACL that he suffered in that January 1 game against Penn State. He has been taking place in fall camp practices, but in a very limited role. If Rising can't play, Florida actually does have a chance to win this thing, and I mean that. Cam Rising is an integral part of what Utah is going to do offensively this year, right? So if he can't go, Florida's defense really does have the opportunity to kind of tee off a little bit. They have the opportunity to kind of get after Utah just a little bit. Now, is that going to matter? I don't really know. What I do know is that against Florida last year, Cam Rising went 22 of 32 for 216, added 91 on the ground, threw for 1, and had a critical red zone mistake in the closing seconds in a game that Utah, frankly, probably should have won. So Utah will turn to Bryson Barnes tonight. He is a sophomore, I believe, 430 yards, 4 touchdowns to 2 interceptions on his career so far. They also do have redshirt freshman and third stringer Nate Johnson as a change of pace option. He is a 4-star recruit and a dual threat QB who had 1 passing TD and 1 rushing TD in spot duty as a freshman last season. Florida quarterback Jason Marshall is quoted as saying the Gators have prepared for all 3 quarterbacks. He said it hasn't changed anything. Sticking to the game plan. It doesn't matter who's back there. As long as we stick to the game plan, focus on the game plan, we should be good. I'm going to tell you, I kind of don't hate betting Florida to cover this. I'm not ready to jump on an outright win. All right. I think I maybe can rock with Florida to cover. The last I saw, and let me go check that line on you. Let me just make sure I'm not using an old line, because with that news of Cam Rising taking a seat, that line may have changed, and it did. And it did. Utah is -4.5 tonight. I don't know how much the environment matters, okay? You're in Utah. You're not going to have the most liquored up crowd in the world for a evening time kickoff. But the Utes are excited. They are a top 14 team. They are, as I have mentioned, in a very, very good place to potentially ultimately win the Pac-12. Remember last year, they beat USC in the regular season. USC got a chance to avenge that in the Pac-12 championship. Everybody thought they were going to. They did not. Utah got them back. It's a good team. But without Cam Rising, that's a big blow. And that line walked down. I saw it sitting around -6.5. It is now down to -4.5. The over-under right now is set at -111. I'm not going to touch that. It's set at 44 points, at -111 either way. I'm not going to touch that number. I don't like that number. I don't like it for 2 reasons. Number 1, I got no idea what Florida's offense is going to look like. Number 2, without Cam Rising, I do not trust Utah to put a bunch of points on the board. No matter which of their backup quarterbacks they go with, I don't see this game getting out of the low 20s, which is all over the number. As a matter of fact, sitting at 44, a 21-21 game would not do it. A 23-21 game would not do it. And that's about the range I expect this game to be in. I don't expect for us to be blown away by either one of these two offenses. Utah with Cam Rising could blow me away. But if they've got to turn to a redshirt freshman QB who's got a dozen and a half snaps to his name so far, I don't trust them to guide Utah up and down the field and put up enough points to cover up Florida's deficiencies on offense and get to the mid to upper 20s. So I'm not going to touch that number. I don't like betting the under either. All right. I don't like betting the under because I think the final score is going to be right around that range. I don't have a lean that it's going to go over or under. I think the 44 range is about where it's going to finish. I'm thinking like 21-20, 23-17, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I'm just not convinced that they're going to be able to pump up enough to get to 44. So I'm not going to touch that number. Man, I wish you know what? I wish I would have grabbed Florida to cover at +6.5. It's now at +4.5, and I don't like that number as much either. Because I think Utah is winning by 3-6. I think this number is a real good line for Vegas. I don't have a lean on that number. I don't think I'm going to play this game. I will tell you this. If you think without Cam Rising that Florida can get the outright win tonight, they are +165 on the money line. Bet a hundo, get $1.65 back. That's not an awful number. If you like Florida to outright win with Utah not having Cam Rising on the sideline. All right, so there's some thoughts on the big game tonight. When we come back here in just a minute, we'll take a look at some of the other ones, including NC State, UConn, Nebraska, and Minnesota. And then we'll start looking ahead to tomorrow. We've got the Confusion Bowl, Miami versus Miami. That one's at Miami. I predict Miami to win. You're going to hear that joke 100 times tomorrow, and I'm so sorry about it. Louisville's at Georgia Tech. Stanford at Hawaii tomorrow night at 11. And then tomorrow, we go Saturday football. Start to finish, top to bottom, beginning to end. Reunited, and it feels so good. Okay, take a break. Come back. We got, 40 minutes of football to talk? Let's do it. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate.
We got a Gables.
All right, guys, got a live read right here. Stay right there. We'll be right back. No bad time for a little brass music, my dudes. There's just not. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Timidator, filling in for the great one, Lonzo, who will make his triumphant return to the show coming up on Tuesday, because I keep forgetting we are off on Monday. It is officially Labor Day, or as we all like to call it, recover from a college football hangover day. All right? This might be a 2-dayer. We all need a few extra hours. We get it on Monday. So we will be off on Monday, and we will be rejoining you with our usually scheduled Rob Brown Show on Tuesday, and the great one will make his return on that day. All right, a few more stories I want to get in here before we get out of here for the day. Let's see. Where do we want to go here? I got a bunch of stuff, and we need to fit it all in at the end. All right, here we go. Kirk Herbstreit has made a comment about Clemson, and I find it very interesting. Here's what I will say I find very interesting about Clemson. I think Clemson's going to be good this year. I do. I think Florida State's going to win the Atlantic Coast Conference this year. I think Florida State is in a very unique position. I think Florida State has maybe the most talent in the ACC for the first time in a very long time. I don't think it's like worlds ahead of Clemson, which is why when I turned in my Power 5 Conference champions list, when I turned in my playoff teams list, I wrote FSU/Clemson. I wrote FSU/Clemson because I think those teams are going to be uber competitive. I think they're going to split the series 1-1. And if Clemson just straight up beats Florida State twice, I will happily eat the crow. But I think a lot of people are sleeping on how much individual talent FSU has. The question is, can they coach them up into a good team? Put that aside for a minute. Here's what I will say I find very interesting. I have not seen a year in which as many people seem as non-committal about what the Tigers can be as this year. And I think Kirk Herbstreit is kind of the illustration of that. Now, I like Herbie. All right? I like him. I think he does a real good job overall. But I find these comments kind of interesting that he just does not want to commit to an answer about Clemson. On game day last Saturday, the panel was going through and picking their Power 5 conference champions. Desmond Howard picked Florida State. Pat McAfee and Kirk Herbstreit did both pick Clemson. But when asked about why he picked Clemson, Herbie said, quote, "I think Clemson will feed off this energy around. Is it over? Is the rain over? Is it behind them? Is Dabo's best behind them?" You know, he's like, thank you. Just keep saying it. Keep bringing it. Here's the reality. This Clemson team has had Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson, and Trevor Lawrence. The last 2 years, it is just the offense. Is it fair to put it on DJ Uiagalelei and the lack of execution? They still have a great defense. They still have great athletes. So we are looking at Cade Klubnik. We are looking at Garrett Riley. We are looking at this offense and getting back to being dynamic. There are moments in that bowl game against Tennessee when you saw it in the future and what we will see this year. But with the new coordinator, I'm just excited to see it. I think they are going to play with a chip on their shoulder. They hear the negativity. We will just see if they are going to be better on offense. That is going to be the big question, end quote. And listen, I don't have a problem with the take. I frankly think he's spot on with the take. I do think a chunk of it is concerns about the offense, right? And as I pointed out to you guys a number of times, I don't think it's unfair to ask questions, right? Because a lot of the comments about DJ sound very similar to a lot of the comments about Cade. And you got burned. You got burned with that situation. It happens, okay? But I don't think it's unfair to say anybody that's sitting here still asking questions about Clemson and about if Cade Klubnik is going to be the guy is wrong or is a hater or whatever else. Last year, Clemson defensively was good, but we expected greatness defensively out of that team. Now, I think it's absolutely fair. I think it's absolutely fair to discuss the fact that there is needed context around last season. There were a lot of games where the offense was stalling out. There were a lot of games where the offense was slowed up a little bit, where the offense was not getting or not maintaining drives. And so the defense was being asked to play a lot of extra snaps last year. But defensively, they were good, not great. So the question mark is going to be, will the offense this year be able to maintain drives? Will the offense this year be able to stay on the field? Will the offense this year be able to hold on to the ball, extend drives, and allow the defense to take a breather? I would hope so. Against Notre Dame, 35 points in that L last year. Against South Carolina, 31 points in that L last year. But I find it interesting that you see a lot of people, and this to me, by the way, this to me does tell me that Clemson is still very much considered nationally to be a powerhouse. They are still very much considered a national powerhouse, and I believe they are still considered a national powerhouse because of the fact that so many people are still talking about them. If you go look at any magazine, if you go look at any television show, you can go look at whatever you want. Clemson is mentioned as a playoff team, consistently mentioned as a playoff team. And I don't have an issue with it. All I'm saying is that I see them talked about, and I see very few people that are willing to commit to what this team is going to be. I've told you what I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be good. I think Florida State just has a little bit too much talent this year, mainly because they've got a bunch of individual skill position players. There is a very good chance that Mike Norvell cannot take all of that individual talent and coagulate it into a good football team. We will find out. If they do, I think Florida State wins the ACC. If they don't, it's going to be a very disappointing year, and there will be questions asked about Mike Norvell at the end of it. But when I see all the Clemson previews, I see a lot of analysts going, oh, they're going to be good, but not committing to how good. And that concerns me a little bit. It tells me that the questions about Clemson have already started. It tells me that the questions about Clemson are already in the air. I've told you a number of times before you go, oh, Rob, you're just being a hater again. Let me point out again that I've said this whole time. I do not think that right now it is fair to ask, is it time? Is it time to move on? I don't think the franchise is over yet. All right. The franchise is not over. There's a lot of good football left under Dabo Swinney at Clemson. But a lot of people have started asking him anyway. And I get concerned about noise, right? If Kirk is right, if Dabo does like to lean into the underdog role, and we know he does. I've told you in the past about the public perception of Dabo Swinney outside of the upstate of South Carolina. He is, get frustrated if you want, he is not super well liked outside of the upstate of South Carolina. People think he's kind of hokey. People think he's kind of, the all shucks little old Clemson stuff has worn thin on them. But I have also said to you multiple times, who the hell cares? Right? It does not matter if people in New York City respect the Tigers or not. All that matters is what the football team does. That is it. That is the only thing that matters. And I don't think it is unfair to say that so far in his career, Dabo Swinney has done a pretty good job of taking that all shucks, little old Clemson, everybody's out to get us, we're always the underdog attitude, and converting it into football success. It's kind of been the legacy of Dabo. But I am saying I find it interesting that you get a guy like Kirk Herbstreit, who in the past, let's call a spade here, in the past, Kirk has always been a dude that is willing to say the nice things about Dabo, about Nick Saban, about the names in college football. And I get it. I get it. Kirk, much like myself, gets paid doing this stuff. And so if he can make college football look good, he's going to do that. And college football, just like everything else, whether you like it or not, college football, just like everything else, very much leans on star power. It just does. It leans on star power. It leans on names. It leans on drama. And guys like Nick and Dabo, and I would say to a lesser degree names like Norvell and Beamer, they provide drama, right? Everybody loves to say, I don't like drama in my life, which is hilarious because that is what sports are, dudes. Sports is drama. By definition, sports is drama. We tune in to see the results of big games. We tune in to see awards. We tune in to see exactly what's happening. It's all drama. So when Kirk has the opportunity to talk about Clemson and say, I still think they're this, I said, he did, for the record, he did pick them to still win the Atlantic Coast Conference, right? He did still pick them to be conference champs. So he's very clearly not out on this team at all, which, fine, me either. Just because I didn't pick them as conference champs doesn't mean that I'm out on this team. But I find it interesting that Kirk is the most recent in a long line of media personalities over the last couple of months that had a chance to take a stance on, hey, this team still got it. Dabo's still got it. They're going to be fine. They're going to get it done. And the strongest take we've gotten is, well, they love being the underdog. That's not for the record. That's not saying anything, right? That's not saying anything. They like being the underdog is not taking a stance on anything. I mean, it might be true. But do they love being the underdog 2-12-0? Do they love being the underdog 2-10-2? I don't know, man. I just find it interesting that for a team that is, I think, going to be very much in the mix, right? And when I say in the mix, I'm talking for the playoff, not just the ACC. As I said earlier, I think the winner of the ACC, and I've got it being FSU, but I think the winner of the ACC is college football playoff bound. I do believe that. But I'm not asking, are they in the mix? I'm asking, how good are they going to be? And there's just a lot of people who will not take a position. And I wonder if I am reading too much into this or if there is something to be said about that. 844-326-3663 is the phone number if you want to jump in here before we call it a day. Text us on the carpros.com text line at 71307. Hit us up. We got to take a break. When we come back, we ask what the X is going on, and then we are done for a Thursday on the Rob Brown Show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Fan Upstate.
Here's the sports flash on the Fan Upstate. First pitch to Orlando, launched on that
Darius Vines went 6 innings to win his major league
CBS
debut. 5
Sports
strikeouts, 2 runs,
Radio.
4 hits over 6 innings. Marcelo Ozuna, Orlando Arcia, and Kevin Pillar all homered. Now it's on to Los Angeles for a battle with the Dodgers. The top 2 teams in the National League set to square off. Spencer Strider starts for Atlanta. Lance Lynn gets the nod for the Dodgers. College football tonight. The Furman Paladins open up the season at home against Tennessee.
1, 2,
The Paladins
3.
picked to win the Southern Conference by coaches and media. They're the number 6 team in the FCS poll entering season. Clemson opens the season Monday at Duke. The Fan Upstate is your home for Furman Paladins football. Listen to the season opener versus Tennessee Tech Thursday, August 31st at 5:30. Download the
That's a
Odyssey app, search
15.
the Fan Upstate, and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders with the Sports
That's
Flash on the Fan Upstate.
3:45.
Market Studio. The
Upstate.
4.
97.7 FM Greenville.
5:15.
always live on the Free Odyssey app. CBS Sports Radio.
I'm Taylor Bishotti with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. We knew the Dolphins were interested in trading for Jonathan Taylor. Now we know the Packers were as well. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reports Green Bay had trade talks with the Colts for the All-Pro back. No deal was reached.
45.
Placed Taylor on the physically unable to perform list due to an ankle
55.
injury, meaning he'll miss the first 4 games.
56.
Elsewhere, Joe
57.
Burrow is back. The
58.
Bengals quarterback practiced for the first time since injuring his calf last month. A good sign he'll be ready for Week 1. Also back, Zappe Hour in New England. One day after his release by the Patriots, quarterback Bailey Zappe signed to the team's practice squad. Some other moves: the Vikings signed former Dolphins running back Myles Gaskin. To make room, they waived former first-round pick receiver Jalen Reagor. Wideout Cole Beasley re-signed to the Giants practice squad after his release Tuesday, while linebacker Jalen Smith is seen in New Orleans. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
60.
Ruthie, our last summer barbecue is this weekend, and it has to be epic.
Well, Total Wine has this new reposado that'll rock your barbecue. And my favorite Cabernet will make your famous ribs even famous.
Yes, just what my last summer barbecue needed.
Wow. And at those low prices, they'll be great
where'd
for
it go?
first fall barbecue.
Ooh, I'll trade you my famous ribs recipe for one of yours.
With the lowest prices for over 30 years, you'll always find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
Are you working way too hard for way too little? There's never been a better time to consider a career in IT. You could enjoy a recession-resistant career in a rewarding field with plenty of growth opportunities and often flexible work environments. Go to My Computer Career and take the free career evaluation. You could start your new career in months, not years. Take classes online or on campus, and financial aid is available to qualified students, including the GI Bill. Now is the time. mycomputercareer.edu.
Nachos! Yeah, you nachos! Hey, I'll take some. Great.
59.
Nah, I'm good. Oh, you're just gonna eat these dry, plain, boring nachos with no friends. Seriously? Crank it up. Crank it up. Come on, lady. Crank it up. Crank it up. Crank it up. Yeah! Yeah, this guy finally gets it. Hey, look, we're on the Jumbotron.
It's the perfect blend of flavor and heat. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Hurry up. Yeah, we'd all like to. Hot water bottle.
That's it. Family meeting.
We can all enjoy
think that's right.
long, steaming hot showers, even the last in line, which it seems is always me. But go ahead, have that imaginary argument of what you should have said. Take your time. With our new high-efficiency Navien tankless water heater, I'll never take a cold shower again. Visit tanklessmadesimple.com to learn more.
At Boot Barn, we're driven by everything the cowboy boot stands for. The reliable communities of the West, the hardened values of the cowboy, and the unshakable spirit of all who lead a tenacious lifestyle. Justin Boots capture these Western ideals in every pair. Their handcrafted boots are an invitation into the continuing story of the West, open to all who dream of unknown lands and endless Western skies.
Easy killer.
Justin Boots.
There's like one stitch in here. Like when I move my hand a certain way, it pokes me.
Then trap flying insects like fruit flies and mosquitoes, turning your home.
I get them
into
out next
restricted
Wednesday.
airspace. For insecticide-free protection that's people and pet friendly, get new Raid Essentials Light Trap.
This afternoon, mostly sunny and less humid, high of 87.
Weather brought to you by Indeed. Need to hire? Find great people fast with Indeed. Their end-to-end hiring solution helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Couple of quick texts and tweets before we get to what the X is going on Twitter. Texter said, no wrestling talk today. That's my favorite segment. Yes, Fight Club with Lonzo is ordinarily on Thursdays, but the great one is on vacation, and I'm going to be real with you, my dudes. I'm not as good as the great one. I can't do Alonzo's segment without Alonzo. I just can't do it. So next week, the return of the great one, and next Thursday, the return of Fight Club with Lonzo. And yes, I am excited about it as well. Texture said, Rob, it's people like you who keep fueling the ROY bus. You keep hating, and we will keep being relevant. Did you miss the point, Texture, in your rush to be all up in your feelings? Did you miss the part where I said, I think Clemson's going to be very good? Did you miss the point where I said, I think this team is going to be exceptionally talented? Did you miss the point where I said, I think that it is either FSU or Clemson and that it's going to be very close? Did you miss the point where I said, I think either Clemson or FSU is in the playoff and I think it's going to be? Did you miss all that, or were you willingly overstepping it? Were you willingly ignoring it in order to justify your paranoia that I'm just out to get you? I'm just out to get you. My dude, Clemson is going to be one of the best 5 football teams, maybe 6 football teams in America this year. All right? They just are. I think Clemson is going to be at the absolute worst 11-2. The absolute worst. The floor is 11-2. I think that you are in the mix for the ACC title in a year which I have described multiple times as being, I believe, the best that the ACC has been in freaking years, maybe ever. And you are going to be one of the 2 best teams in that. And again, I am less confident in my pick of FSU to win the ACC than I am of maybe any other conference championship selection that I have made so far. Honestly, I think I am more apprehensive about Florida State to win the ACC than I am Washington to win the Pac-12, that I am Texas to win the Big 12. You're going to be right there. So stop with the victim complex, my dude. You're one of the best teams in America, and we all know it.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
What the? X gon' give it to you.
He gon' give it to you. X gon' give it to you. He gon' give it to you.
All right, coming in at number 1 is hashtag Happy Birthday Jungkook.
I don't know who that is.
I'm sorry, Jungkook. Sorry, with a K.
I don't know who that is either.
I don't either. All right.
Well, now hang on. Now I gotta look. He is a. It appears that he is a pop star in the what's the name for the Korean pop music? There's a name for it.
Oh,
K-pop.
K-pop.
Literally,
yeah.
I'm such a dummy. He's apparently like a K-stop, K-pop. Yeah, K-stop. He's apparently a K-pop superstar, and it is his birthday. Okie doke.
Yeah. Happy birthday, man. All right.
Sure.
Coming in at number 2 is hashtag Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
So I saw Super Mario Brothers trending last night. Okay, I saw it trending last night. I got the 75-inch setup last night, and as I was going through, because I got the Google TV, right, and it just conglomerates everything onto one screen, and I found out that I now have access to stream. I now have access to stream the Super Mario Brothers movie, which I did not see in theaters. I don't know what Super Mario Brothers Wonder is. I'm assuming are we getting a new Mario Brothers game? I don't know.
More than likely.
You're a gamer, bro. You're supposed to know this stuff.
There's so many Mario games now. It's hard to keep up with. All right, coming in for number 3, and this is actually for the great one. Hashtag One Piece live action.
All right, so I've never watched One Piece. It is a very popular anime. I
haven't seen it yet either.
However, I know Lonzo's a big fan. I know that I think Matthew is a big fan. I think he's into that gig.
It's just so many episodes.
Yeah, from what I understand, there are like quite literally hundreds of episodes.
No, thousands now.
Thousands of episodes. And from what I understand, this is so they're doing a live action take of this. How do you distill? I mean, listen, I'm a big comic book dork, right?
Yeah.
How do you distill thousands of episodes of a television show? How do you pick the part that is worthy of being in a live action?
Yeah, see, and that's where I kind of sit with it, because they've tried this before with like anime, where they will try to make a live action or adaptation of the anime, and it's just, it never turns out well. Like Death Note is a perfect example of this. Even the Dragon Ball movies, when they came out, were terrible. I don't know why they do it, but because I'm a huge anime fan. I haven't seen One Piece, but I'm a huge anime fan, and every time they do it, it's terrible.
Well, jump in. All right, what else we got?
All right, hashtag Nabbit. It's Super Mario.
Skip.
All right. Hashtag is that Oilers? Yeah.
I actually did see this trending earlier. Memphis. Memphis's college football team this weekend will be breaking out some new unis. And those unis are a tribute powder blue uni to the old Tennessee Oilers, the old Houston Oilers, the old Oilers unis, which were also the powder blue with the white helmet with the stripes down the middle and the script on the side that says Memphis in place of the old oil tower. They are, and because Keegan said, I've never sounded older in my life, let me use one of your terms, Keegan. They are dope. Say that?
Dope.
That's how you use that word correctly.
I use it all the time.
That's it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for hanging out on a Thursday. Come back tomorrow, because on tomorrow's show, we look down the entire slate of Saturday college football games. It is our last weekend without NFL football as well. So we'll get into a few preseason prognostications for that as well. We'll see you back here tomorrow to do it all over again, but better. I am the elder millennial, Rob Brown. That guy over there, that's T2, the Timinator. We're back here tomorrow on the Rob Brown Show with the Fan Upstate. Later. Yeah. All right, guys, I got to run because I got to record a bunch of stuff and then get set up to go home and work more before football. Thank you guys very much for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a lovely rest of your Thursday. Enjoy football tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Goodbye.